Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Future Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Muller, and my guest today is Kevin Surace and from kevinsurace.com. And Kevin and I are going to get into a lot of topics. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, happy to be here, Brent. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So, Kevin, I think we want to start out with, like I always do, is just give me a couple minutes on yourself, your journey, and kind of how you got to where you're at, and then we'll get into kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah, you bet. Most people know me as the father of the virtual assistant. I invented the darn thing back in the 90s, long before most people were using them. So everything that became Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant, all those things were based on technologies that me and my team had developed at a company called General Magic back in the 90s. And we were the first with this kind of virtual assistant. But I've been in many industries. I have 94 global patents. So I've been inventing for a long time. I've been running companies for a long time. I've been on 30-something boards. I've purchased or sold over 30 companies. So I've been doing this a long time, mostly in the tech world, but also clean tech. Look, I have many mantras, right? But one of them is find a real problem that people want to pay you to solve and solve it. And I will tell you, certainly in Silicon Valley, and a lot of the people listening to this podcast, we have famously in Silicon Valley, but across the world in tech companies, solved problems for which people don't have. There's solutions looking for, solutions for looking for a problem. And we're so excited about our solution. Look, I've got a blue napkin. And people go, I'm not going to pay you for that, right? But there's something in the sentence in the way I said it that's important, which is solve real problems for people who are willing to pay you for it. So, for instance, famine in certain countries is a real problem, and I hope someday that someone solves it. However, there is no one who's going to pay you to solve it. That is a government problem, right? That is not a problem for a startup in most cases. So you also have to be thoughtful. I mean, I see a lot of these people go solve a problem, and people have that problem, but they're only willing to pay you 10 cents for it. Well, you can't make money at that, right? So you got to find problems that are so painful that people are willing to take money out of their pocket, or businesses, right? Either one, people or businesses. And let go of that money to solve this problem. So there's a real ROI for them in productivity, maybe in reduced headcount, whatever the case is. Just think there and stop thinking about, I got this really cool thing. That's nice. Is anyone going to pay you for that cool thing? Pay you real money for that cool thing?
Excellent. I couldn't agree more. I mean, that honestly, you just hit on Entrepreneur 101, but how many people just overlook that? So, Kevin, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing lately, and tell our audience really about what you've been doing lately.
Yeah, look, I've been in and around the applied AI space for 25 years now. And applied AI is related to AI, very related, but it's applying AI. So I'm not, we talk a lot about, wow, look at this new foundational model from OpenAI, is GPT-4o or whatever it is, or Claude, or it doesn't matter. Those are really cool. And there are scientists really doing really, incredible work on developing the algorithms for these models so that we can have a smarter and smarter ChatGPT, for example, right? This is very important work. I don't do that work. I understand what they're doing. They're way smarter than I am. I don't do that work. But what I do is then take all of the different kinds of AI that we have, whether it's reinforcement learning, or it's deep learning, or it's neural nets, or it's CNNs, or it's RNNs, or it's the OpenAI kinds of ChatGPT, kinds of transformers, and say, how do we apply this to real world problems? Right? Not generic things where I'm going to ask it a question to get an answer. How do I apply these concepts to real world problems? Because applying it to real world problems may take many models, all specially trained to solve this really hard to solve human problem for humans. And so I've been working in the cybersecurity space. I've been in the built environment space. And for the last decade or so, I've been trying to solve, and actually solving, the problem of bugs in software. And I'm not talking about consumer software as much as I'm talking about the software that runs our companies, which most people wouldn't know. But let's take a bank like a JP Morgan. People know JP Morgan is. Do you have any idea? I'm going to ask you, Brent, how many applications does JP Morgan manage in their business? Take a guess.
I would imagine it's thousands.
Yes, you would be right. You have a guess?
Uh, I'm gonna say it's closer to 10,000 than it is 1,000.
There you go. That is true. It happens to
And
be
only
around.
because I've been in enough Fortune 500 companies to know how that gets out of
That's
control.
right.
Yeah.
So it turns out for JP Morgan, it's around 15,000 applications that they manage on their servers, on their network, whatever. They maintain them, they upgrade them, they have to test them, etc. And so most people listening to this might not realize, they think of an application as, oh, Facebook, it's one. That's not where all the meat is. By the way, out of the 15,000 applications that JP Morgan manages, only maybe a dozen face the outside world. The rest of them run the company.
Internal, right.
So all of the meat of application work is really running companies, not the thing that faces the outside world. There's an e-commerce site, and there's banking sites and some mobile apps and
client portal, right? Yeah, yep.
Exactly. So when you look at that, I had a premise, and it's correct, that there is an immense amount of spend going into software QA for all of these applications. And it turns out around the world today, it's around $120 billion of software QA. You know how much of that is people? You know how much of that is people? 119 billion of it. Virtually all is people. It is 100,000, actually about 2.5 to 3 million people are employed doing software QA, either manual testing or writing test scripts to test software. So the premise was 10 years ago, if I could get AI to find all the bugs in our software, that's going to be faster, better, and cheaper. And I don't need all those people doing that work. That's just how technology works, right? So we've been doing that for 10 years at a company called AppVance, and we've made incredible strides, and we've got slews of customers using this, and it will generate its own tests and find its own bugs and report them to you. And you just scratch your head and go, I know how it works, right? But others who are in the industry go, how does that work? I had a team of 200 people writing test scripts for a year, and it wrote them in an hour, and it ran them, and it gave me the results. What am I going to do with all these people? That's not my problem. My problem is to get you results quickly and get you visibility. So that's the problem I've been solving, and we have 7 patents in that field now, and continue to make incredible strides. And it's mind-blowing. Now, here's the interesting thing about all of these kinds of AI things. So we launched that product in 2017, announced it in 2017. It was out there in 2018. Most companies that come to AppVance, they go, I didn't even know about this. I said, well, it's been running for 7 years. Are you saying that a machine could generate tests for the last 7 years and I didn't know? That's right. You could have bothered to find us. I'm sorry, our marketing wasn't better, right? But and they just scratch their head. They go, well, then why am I spending all this money and spending months writing test scripts when this machine does it for me and has done it for years? So I don't know. And why are you looking even at these other vendors? And so visibility from a marketing perspective is one of the hard things, right? There's ChatGPT that had immense marketing on day one and was able to go to 100 million users in a day. But most companies don't have multi-billion-dollar budgets to get the word out there. You have small budgets. And so you're waiting for people to look for what it is you do. Then you have to explain what it is you do. Then they don't, if it's in the AI world, mostly they don't believe that it can do that. They literally don't believe it.
Right.
And,
I've had that so much, Kevin, even with my own clients. So I totally get what you're saying.
Don't believe it. And then you have to prove it and prove it and prove it and prove it. Like we talked earlier, Riverside has a feature that will go speech to text on this podcast, summarize the text, and give you the summary in a matter of minutes, so you don't have to do that work. And yet, to many people, that would be almost unbelievable. How can it be? Well, if you understand the technology, it's actually quite simple. But it's fascinating. So when you get into these technical fields and complex fields that are relying on the data, the biggest thing you have to overcome is the belief of the customer, because to them, AI is a black box. They can't understand it. They weren't raised with it. That is, they didn't take AI in school. So a lot of the people that we're interfacing with at Advance and we're talking to, these are QA engineers that write test scripts. They don't
Right.
know what I'm talking about. When I say transformer, they may not really understand it. And then they don't understand a multi-transformer model and a multimodal model that goes
Right.
with it, and an application blueprint, which is a map of an application. This is so far outside of their field. And AI is outside of most of the fields that we're selling to, right? So
Absolutely. Yep.
this is hard for founders. There's 2,000 plus AI founded companies just in the last year or so. And what they're going to find is it's going to be hard to market, expensive. It's going to be hard to differentiate because there's 2,000, applied AI
Right.
companies out there. It's hard to build a moat unless, we have a 10-year moat, so we have a real moat, but sometimes it's hard to build a moat. So all of these things get in your way, and it's not going to be the technology. You might make that work. I grant that. And it may add value. How are you going to tell the thousands of customers that need you about it? And how are you going to get their attention? How are you going to get their money? How are you going to make them believe that what you do actually does what you say it does?
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on today, because my whole point and as you and I talked earlier in starting the podcast here and future proofed is to educate founders on what's real, what's not, especially around AI and automation, because of how it's going to change the game for their company, their growth, and where they should layer it in. Because most of them don't, most people that are coming on to the podcast have either a little bit of knowledge, right, or no knowledge of what it can do and where to apply it. And so my point is to bring that knowledge, right, to our audience in a way in which they can say, you know what, I didn't know this existed either, but I need to talk to Kevin and get introduced to Advance, right? And I need to go to some of our other guests and understand where I can infuse AI and make a believer out of myself, right, as a
Right.
founder of
Right.
where it's going to impact, right? And I was talking to someone earlier today, Hadi from Liquid Tech, and they invented a basically almost like their own internal version of Otter, right, for meetings. And
Yeah.
what he was saying is and this is what you can do with AI, right? And Kevin, this is gonna lead into my next question for you, but basically what happens is they have an app called Sally, and it's their note taking assistant for meetings. And what he was telling me is that, hey, it can save on average 3 to 4 hours a week per employee, because you can trigger action items to come out of a meeting and it will mark the time, right? Just like we talked about what Riverside does. And then the employee can go back and reference that call with the client to find out what problem they were trying to solve if there wasn't enough clarity in the action item. And so what you're doing, right, with Advance is a whole nother level, right? Because of what the problem you're solving, and what these problems are to accelerate growth and accelerate by reducing operational, right, drag, right, which you're talking about, so they can accelerate development. And what I want other founders to understand, I kind of want you to hit on this, is that what they're not calculating, right? They're just saying, oh, well, 3 to 4, like I'd take that example, 3 to 4 hours a week per employee at $100 to $200 an hour, whatever, your FTE cost is. But what they're not factoring is the productivity gains. It's almost a 2-for-1. So if you think about what you're doing on QA and finding bugs, have you measured really what that impact is? Because it's bigger than
Oh,
QA.
yes. Yes. Well, this is complicated. So I'm going to explain. So what people at first want to do is say, how much money will you save me versus what I was spending? And it turns out that's a lot. There's no question.
Right,
We
no
might be
question.
able to save you in labor 70 or 80% of that labor you don't need doing the same job. I don't know
Right.
whether you keep them or you don't keep them or whatever, right? That's measured. Here's the impact in our case, in the Advance case, but in other AI cases, is that also AI, in the way we've implemented, is about 10 times better at finding bugs than the existing test cases that you have. That means it can get more code coverage and application coverage than you've ever had, 10 times more. So then you say, not only is it going to save you that, but had you employed people, and let's say you used to spend, let's pretend, you used to spend $1 million in QA on this application, okay?
Right.
And so just the basic capabilities might take that to 200,000 or 300,000 from $1 million. But that's not the big win. The real savings is the other 9 million or 10 million you didn't have to spend to get that level of visibility of bugs. And they go, when you show them that, they go, well, I would have never spent that. I know that. You would have never spent it because you didn't have the money. But had you had the money and you wanted that visibility, that's what it would have cost you to get that. And then they're just confused. They go, well, you're saving me money that I never spent. Yes, but you should have spent it, because technically, if you had an unlimited budget, you wanted to have that level of visibility and speed, and that would have cost you $10 million, but even though you only had $1 million budget. So that takes some explanation, right? But eventually they get there, and some people never get there, and they go, I'm just going to go back. The number one, and this is just advanced, but I think it's true in AI for customer support and other things. You know what? The number one competition isn't going to a competitor. The number one competition is going, we're just going to do what we've been doing. This scares me. And I'll tell you, if you're selling, if I'm selling to, let's say it's a bank, and it's a QA manager or a QA director or maybe even a VP, and they look and they go, today I've worked my way up to 18,000 FTEs in software QA, internal and external. A lot of them are SIs, they're in India, whatever, right? And you're telling me I'll only need 1,000 of those. I don't want to do that. I don't want to say goodbye to 17,000 people. This is uninteresting to me. So there's an old adage already in AI is you cannot sell to the people that you're about to replace or that directly manage the people you replace. So if you're doing AI for customer support, and AI for tier one customer support is a given. It works.
It is a given. Yes.
It's a given. Like I can have a virtual assistant trained up literally in a day that will out answer your entire phone bank. Trust me. This is not hard.
And it's irrefutable, right? Because I've done
irrefutable.
This. I totally agree. It's irrefutable.
It's irrefutable at this point. 2 years ago, hard. Today, irrefutable and easy. And it's done. Basically, what we do is we use RAG and we train basically transform an LLM model with speech to text and text to speech to limit its answers to this set of FAQs, and that's what it does. And so you can't ask it what the meaning of life is or who is God. Instead, you can say, my toaster doesn't work. What's wrong? You know what I'm saying? Probably not for toasters, but you get the point. So it turns out that's irrefutable. And yet 99% of tier one customer support groups are still in place a year after this was irrefutable. They're still staffed. And so you say, why is that? And when you talk to the people who are doing this, they go, well, we could only get up to the manager of QA or manager or director of customer support. And they looked at it and they said, oh, it just can't do what my people can do. That's not going to work. You can't sell to them. You cannot sell to the people who manage the people you're going to replace, because you're going to wipe them out. Now, you go to the CIO or the CFO, those are the people. C-level people are driven by cost savings. Below that, they're not even measured by cost savings.
It's two levels, right? It's cost saving and growth, right? Cost savings.
So you have to that's right. You get to the CFO and say, how much does customer support, tier one customer support cost you? Cost me $18 million a year. How'd you like that to be $800,000 a year? It says, sign me up. Or she says, sign me up. You go two levels below that, they go, well, I don't know. This is going to be, we got to contemplate. We'll have to strategize. And then they'll write a report, by the way, to the CIO. They write a report to the CIO that says, it's impossible. We tried it. It doesn't work. So C-level executives, frankly, with AI are being not exactly getting the full, the whole truth today, because this does impact people. And every time technology has come along to impact people, and I'll give you an example. PCs on the desktop. I was actually around when we put PCs on the desktop in the 80s, okay? When you did that, there were slews of essentially secretarial pools, right? And if those people were involved in the decision at all, they'd say, oh no, we shouldn't be using, it can't be done. Our people can't type their own letters. They can't use something called Word. It was WordPress or whatever it was at the time, right? I mean, this can't work. It's terrible. Okay, finance. When Excel came around, the people at certain levels said, "Oh, it can't do what I do. I've got a pencil and ledger book, and we're more accurate." And eventually the technology wins, but it
Yeah, it
has
just
to
takes time.
overcome all these people who spent
Yeah,
their career building out large teams. This is
right.
what they did. And they're very proud they have that team. I've had more people look at me and tell me, Kevin, I've spent my whole life getting to manage 158 people. Why would I want to see them go? So, because that's what technology does. That's not my fault. That's what we
Right.
do. Well, it's
Right.
that over my dead body. Over
Right.
my dead body. Okay. Well, you're not the person. So you have to be, if you're utilizing AI in your product, you have to be careful who you sell to. You've got to get to a level that cares about finances and bottom
Yeah.
line. And most of the people in the company do not care about bottom line. There's like 10 people who care. You got to find one of them.
Yeah. Right. And Kevin, that's the whole point of my audience is really geared towards the founders and the CEOs for this reason, right? It's how do we get to the truth? And what you're talking about right now is basically the current today, the impact of today. So before I jump to my next question, which is logical, which is what do you see on the horizon? Today, right? Where do you see the biggest impacts? Right, take Advance out of the equation for a second because you've been steeped in this thing across any right, and you cite examples: customer service, finance, right? Where in a company, right? If I'm a founder and I'm thinking, all right, you woke me up, I need to start to think about it. Where do I start, right? And where do you see the impacts?
Well, sure. And look, I do 30, 40, 50, depending on the year, keynote speeches a year on mostly on AI, but also on the Joy Success Cycle, which is a whole different talk. But because of that, I get to actually meet so
Future
many
episode, by the way, just a little plug. Future episode with Kevin
future episode.
on that. Yeah.
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 So it turns out I get to talk to a lot of people also on the road doing that. Yeah, I'm sometimes I'm speaking to 20 people and sometimes 5,000. And so I like to get in the night before and talk to people and audience members and the C-level executives of the company. So I see what's working. So first of all, if you look at accessible AI today, ChatGPT
Gemini,
and the
Bard,
like,
right?
and Gemini, Copilot, whatever.
Yeah.
Marketing, content generation is obvious. Okay, all of marketing should be leveraging. You're writing blog posts. I can write 52 blog posts in one day, and I'm done for the year. Okay.
Exactly.
Not only that, I can ask it what are the 52 topics. I can then work on the 52 topics with it, and then I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
So
Right.
you can literally be hundreds of times more productive in marketing, in generating PowerPoint content, in generating visuals, in comparing documents, and analyzing different documents, and analyzing an annual report. For example, here's a 76-page annual report. Tell me what they did right and wrong. Boom, boom, boom,
Right.
boom, boom. Okay. I know you can go read all 76 pages, but you don't have to any longer. This is an amazing world, okay? It's like Cliff Notes for anything.
Yes.
For anything. It's so I say, first of all, stop playing, because what I see is, especially in smaller companies, they go, well, I've got 56 people and we're playing with ChatGPT. Stop playing and do freaking work, okay?
Yes.
It's a
Amen.
job. You do work. And
Yeah.
so I want you to demand that people start generating content this way, start analyzing financial results this way. And certainly you're going to use it in code, and certainly you can use technology like from Advance in QA, but Copilot for coding will make your coders, if you're coding, if you have coders, developers, about 50% more productive. Why wouldn't you do that? It's $20 a month. Of course you're going to do that. So everybody get over themselves and demand that you will do real work going forward. That's it. And I know people are scared. The managers are scared. People are scared, for all kinds of reasons. Get over yourself. Remember, when the Excel spreadsheet showed up in finance, people were scared of it. Today, you can't get hired in finance if you're not really good at Excel. It would be ridiculous.
Really good. Right.
Can you imagine showing up and saying, I don't use Excel, but I have a pencil and a calculator? They'd say, get out. Not only do I want you good, I want you good at writing the macros to do these things. Right? I want you really, really good at Excel, or else you shouldn't be in finance. That's the core tool.
Absolutely. And so I love that you're saying this, because what I tell people, right, and the clients that I work with is that, hey, look, it's okay to be scared, but I'm going to steal a couple of those examples. I use different examples, but it's the same concept, right? It's like you got to turn into it. You cannot be afraid of it. But here's where I do think the fear will drive them to start implementing and mandating to do work, right? Stop playing and do work, right? Like you said, as I ask you this next question, because this is what should scare them, is into action, right? Is Kevin, again, with all of your experience and as much as you're steeped into this, talk to me about where you see the next 2 to 3 years, because this is where I think it wakes up your CEOs and founders.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, there's going to be the haves and the have-nots, and I don't mean economically. I mean, if your company is not leading the parade in leveraging AI across all facets of the company, your competition is, and they're going to crush you. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
And is that what you want? Is that what your intent is, right? So I just say you got to get on this bandwagon. That's the first thing. And the second thing is we're going to see agentic use and a lot of agents. And so, I mean, I worked in agents. We literally invented the concept of software agents back at General Magic. And we had a slew of patents in agents, right? They've expired by now. It's been so long. But we always imagined that software agents would do your bidding. So to date, ChatGPT, for example, interacts with you. It can't do anything, right? But
Right.
Certainly in 2025, you'll have an agent that you'll say, check with the back office on the following things and get me the following data. And it will go interact with other agents in the back office, get that data and come back and do it. Go buy me tickets get me I need a dinner reservation tonight at 7 for a steakhouse. Find one within 12 miles and come back. It'll go do that bidding because it'll know how to interface with a lot of those services. So we're going to see a lot more agents and multi-agents, okay? Multiple agents talking to multiple agents and doing our bidding for us. Right now, we are totally in charge. It just responds to us. That is not the future. The future is not only responds, it goes in. So for example, I gave the blog post example. Come up with 52 blog posts for the year and write my blog posts, and I'll review them and edit them and call it done for the year. I can still do that, but then I'll say, and at the end of that, I want you to get approval on these 52. Get approval on these 52 blog posts from these 5 people at the C-level. Get that approval in the next 3 days, and if there's something unapproved, rewrite it and go back for approval. I'm not even in the loop anymore. Let's go do all that. Come back when the task has been completed. That's what agents are going to do for us. It's literally like having an assistant next to you. Right? That goes and does your bidding and finally comes back and says we're done.
Right.
Never misses.
Never not follows up. Nothing drops through the floor. Right.
It's a machine. It just does what you told it to do. So that's what we're going to be interfacing with. And then post that, because we've made so much progress in humanoid robotics in the last year, we will see these agents become physical manifestations. So they will still have that software agent, the transformer, the LLMs built in. But what we've done in the last year only, just in 2024, we started using reinforcement learning to train our humanoid robots. So in the past, let's say I'm picking up my drink here. In the past, to train a robot to pick this up, I literally wrote code to squeeze, but only squeeze so much, and use your visual acuity and land right in the middle. Then squeeze it, but don't squeeze too much because it's a can. Then make sure you pick it up a little bit. Then do all of this, right? So every step was hard-coded with rules. And there are rule-based systems that look like AI to us. They're sort of artificially intelligent, but it was all based on rules. And so to program a robot just to pick up this could take weeks and weeks and weeks of hard coding, right?
Yeah.
Now, months. So now with reinforcement learning, you show it what you want it to do, and you say, you learn how to do this. Of course, it drops the can 9,000 times, but eventually teaches itself, actually called reinforcement learning, it's building its own neural net, literally building its own neural net on how to pick up a can, or how to put the dishes in the dishwasher, or how to take the dishes out of the dishwasher and put them away. It builds its own knowledge base, just like a baby would, right? So because of this, now we've got robots training themselves to do tasks, either at home or at work. So a year or two ago, I would have said, we're 30 or 40 years away from a humanoid robot in our home to say cook and clean. And now I think it's before 2030, literally 5 years, because these things can train themselves now, and they're learning how to do it in multiple environments. And so you can imagine a time where you get this robot, it costs you $10 an hour or something, but it's always there with you, and it's always cooking and cleaning and doing the laundry. Okay, that's an actual problem.
Yeah.
No one actually wants to do laundry. It is true, sometimes we want to cook, and that's fine. No one wants to do the dishes. Have a robot do dishes and do laundry.
No one wants to mow the lawn.
We have robots to mow the lawn today.
Right.
I mean, and people use them, right? But we don't have them to be in our house with us. So I can imagine that is a real problem. There's lots of companies working on this now, and we have a solution. Like, we have an actual pathway to get there that will work, and that's what's exciting. Reinforcement learning is working. Deep learning works, as Sam Altman said a few weeks ago. He says all of this, everything we're able to talk to these things in English and everything, is just deep learning, the concept from 2012, Google, a seminal paper. Deep learning works. That's it. Period. Proven. Done. Check the box.
Totally agreed. Yeah, totally agreed. And so, as you look out, right, into your next couple of years, right, what's on the horizon for you, Kevin?
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to continue to advance the state of the art in AI. I have a cybersecurity company also called Token Ring. Token Ring is a ring that you wear on your finger and identifies your biometrics, and will not let anyone into any of your applications or networks or whatever without that ring on your finger. That ring on your finger. And what happens is, so about almost 90% of all ransomware attacks and hacks are coming through the front door, meaning someone got your ID and password and also got your MFA
web or something. Right.
Yeah, and they also got your MFA code. And I won't take people through the 20 ways that we hack MFA today, but it's now called legacy MFA. So the codes you get on your phone,
now, or at least they don't know, MFA is hackable, right?
It's so hackable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it may not be easy to hack for, say, you, but if you're a bad guy in Russia or China or North Korea or whatever, it's incredibly easy to hack. In fact, there's teams that just get your MFA code. And it's actually ridiculously simple, and I don't want to teach everyone here how to do it.
Right.
But it's ridiculously simple, including the apps that come on your phone. So that legacy MFA today is, call it 20 years old. This is really old ideas. So this ring, the Token Ring, is next generation MFA. It's unhackable. And we could spend a whole podcast on why it's unhackable. It's unhackable. You cannot get through that because you enter your ID, you enter your password, and it says, touch your Token Ring and prove you're you. Yeah. And if you're in Russia, you go, I don't have that thing. I don't have your ring. I don't have your fingerprint. I don't have your ring with your serial number. And by the way, the ring has no readout on it. So if you lost it, no one knows what it is, what it does, who it's for. And by the way, it won't work on their finger anyway. It's completely useless.
It's so because of the biometrics. Fantastic. Love that idea.
It is a complete lock. So you can lock down your important applications. This is for enterprise today, right? It's for companies. It's not yet for consumers, but enterprises that are getting hacked every day and costing tens of millions of dollars. And now, they're talking about 20 billion or more dollars spent a year, literally paying off the hackers, right? Just ransomware costs. And that is going up. And the costs of this to brand equity and everything else are certainly in the hundreds of billions. It's horrific. So I'm working on that. And that's a real product called Token Ring. And that is available to enterprises now, tokenring.com. So that's fun. AppVance, obviously, I'm working on. And my book, The Joy Success Cycle, we can talk about it another time. If you really want to find a new way to look at all of those tasks as a founder or as whatever it is that you're doing, or just a worker, it is the way I look at them. And this whole book concept of Joy Success Cycle came out, and people kept asking me, why are you so happy? Like, the world's on fire and the company's burning. And I said, well, it's all how I've looked at it. And so I built out an entire program that anyone reading the book, when it comes out, it's not out yet, will be able to follow, and it will change their level of success. So the Joy Success Cycle ties together joy and success into a sort of an infinite loop that you can't get out of. And so if you stay in control of that, you will win.
Absolutely, we're gonna talk about that on a different podcast because that's the way you should look at it, right? I mean, there's just no other way to do it, and I love that you have a framework for it. So yeah,
I
that's
do.
fantastic. So, Kevin, one, this has been an absolute pleasure. I could talk to you for hours on this stuff. I get so excited about it because I see the possibilities, not the pitfalls. Because I think that there's just more upside if you turn into it. It's just like you said, right? It's the Excel versus doing things by pencil, right? You can name a
Right.
hundred examples. And if you turn into it, you can accelerate growth in ways you never ever thought possible and hit milestone targets faster than you ever thought possible. Or you can get left in the dust, right? And that's
Right.
kind of the way I
That's
see
right.
it. So, yeah. So, Kevin, real quick, give me a couple minutes on the places people can engage with you. I know you talk, right? You do a lot of speeches, but you also have your own branded website, but you're also involved in a few companies. And I'll put all the links in here for what my team will do that to get in touch with Kevin. But Kevin, please, kind of talk to me a little bit about yourself and how that people can engage with you.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is kevinsurace.com. It is my website. And at the bottom of that website, there is my LinkedIn addresses there. And I do answer almost all of my direct mail on LinkedIn, right? Direct messaging on LinkedIn, except for the spam ads that I get. You clearly want to try our... You really want to try our coffee? Really, on LinkedIn, I want to try your coffee? Probably not, right? Not the right platform. But generally, I will answer. And there's also a form you can fill out, but basically it's a speaker request form. So again, I do speak around the world. Very much enjoy that. I customize everything to what the client wants. And so, look, I make myself available. Obviously, people can look into AppVance. It's appvance.ai. They can look into TokenRing, tokenring.com. So those are occupying my time today. I'm sure there's more to come. But look, I'll end with this. This is the most exciting time ever to be in the tech field. And I know everyone listening isn't in the tech field. Maybe you have a dry cleaner. I don't know. But it is the most exciting time for us in tech to have ever been in tech. And for us some of us who have been leveraging AI and applying AI for 25 years, it's like the moon launch, right? It's unbelievable. We've been waiting for the day that we could do these kinds of things, that we could talk to our computer in English, and we can, and it would speak back to us in English. This is amazing, right? So enjoy it, use it, work with it, stop playing, get work done. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Kevin, it has been a joy talking to you. I am sure that we'll do this again, especially when your book comes out. But honestly, for all of our viewers out there, Kevin is definitely someone in the top of this field. And please feel free to reach out to him. I know I have several clients already in mind that we're definitely gonna introduce, because you can't get enough of these insights because of the impact it can make into your company. So Kevin, again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
You bet. Pleasure. Thanks.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.